I'm Rachel Rigolino, the coordinator of the SWW writing program, part of the composition program here at New Paltz.
Hello, and I'm Nikki Wilson-Clasby. I am the coordinator of the composition program here at SUNY New Paltz.
Hello, I'm Steph Vogler, an undergraduate student and an adolescent education and English major here at SUNY New Paltz.
And I am Lauren Mulvey, an undergraduate student and double major in journalism and digital media production here at SUNY New Paltz.
We're going to take you on a summer-long journey that actually began about 25 years ago here at SUNY New Paltz, where the composition program designed an innovative new program for our developmental writers.
I think it was about 25 years ago, in 1995, that the state of New York decided that four-year campuses could no longer offer remedial education in terms of math and English to students. And we had a non-credit prep writing course at SUNY New Paltz. And we realized that the students enrolled in that non-credit course would not be able to then continue at New Paltz. They would have to take that course at a community college. And we realized that that was not going to work for us. So that led to us redesigning our whole composition program for these students and to create a credit-bearing course with supplemental help assistance in terms of tutoring and an extra workshop hour.
Mm-hmm. But before we go any further, let's get you situated. We're going to give you a snapshot of SUNY New Paltz.
New Paltz is a comprehensive college in the State University of New York system, located about 90 miles from New York City in the Hudson Valley, and within easy driving distance of the Mohonk Preserve and Minnewaska State Park. In fact, many students choose to attend New Paltz because of all the access they have to outdoor activities. Our campus sits in the plain lying below the Shawgunk Mountain Ridge, which is considered one of the best rock climbing locations east of the Rockies. The town of New Paltz is a classic small college town that attracts both students and tourists with its shops, places to eat, and of course, bars. One interesting tidbit about the town is that it was founded in the 17th century by Huguenots, and it boasts being the oldest street in America. Over the past 2 decades, SUNY New Paltz has become increasingly popular and increasingly selective. The Princeton Review ranked it as one of the nation's, quote, best value colleges, and it's now included among the top 75 public four-year institutions of higher education in the U.S. Although we are now ACT and SAT optional, our current acceptance rate remains selective at 45%. While New Paltz has remained, quote, committed to providing high-quality, affordable education to students from all social and economic backgrounds, end quote, this can be a challenge. To that end, the college works with the Educational Opportunity Program to admit students with promise, students whose high school GPAs might fall short of admission standards. This also applies to international students and recent immigrants whose developing English skills put them at a disadvantage when compared to their peers. As you will learn in more detail from this presentation, New Paltz's commitment to its developmental or basic writers was further strengthened in 1996 when the then Director of Composition, Jan Schmidt, worked with Rachel Rigolino and others to design the Supplemental Writing Workshop composition program for these students. Then in the summer of 2021, as you're going to hear about in more detail, we sought to shore up the SWW composition program by finding a way to train graduate peer tutors. But wait, more about that story later.
In 1996, under the direction of Jan Schmidt, we worked on creating this 4-credit course for composition, and in that course we integrated the embedded tutors that were going to be working both in the classroom and then with the students. So that was a big piece of the puzzle. We called this program the Supplemental Writing Workshop Program because it had an hour of workshop time for the students in addition to the course material, in addition to the 3 hours of the course, there was an hour of workshop time. And then built into that workshop time was the embedded tutor that met with the instructor and the students in class time. And then in addition to that, the students met for an hour outside of class with the tutor. So now we'd like to take you to an interview with Jan Schmidt to get her point of view about how the program got started.
I'm Jan Zlotnick Schmidt, and I'm a SUNY Distinguished Teaching Professor Emerita. I just retired, but for 20 years I was director of the composition program at SUNY New Paltz from 1985 to 2005. And one of the proudest accomplishments, I think, of the composition program of Rachel Rigolino was the founding of the SWW program, because it helped so many students and built on students' strengths rather than their deficiencies. And they were able to complete the SWW program in Composition 1 and 2 just as regular students did, so they weren't placed in a remedial track. And as I know now, that program is still flourishing and continuing. And it's wonderful after I've retired to see that the program is firmly in place in the composition program. So the reason we started the SWW program was because we got a message from the administration that what they called remedial students were no longer going to be allowed to register in courses at SUNY New Paltz, that they were going to have to go to the community colleges first, take their remedial courses, and then come to SUNY New Paltz. And the issue there was, one, this would obviously affect enrollment and affect some of the programs on campus, but more importantly, it was targeting a group of students and sending them to the community colleges, and we were losing all these gifted students who perhaps could come to New Paltz. So it was kind of a scare, and it really moved us forward to thinking about what would be a better program for students that wasn't remedial but was developmental, that would build on students' strengths and help them accomplish their goals as writers in Composition 1 and 2. And so we wanted to change the model. At that time, the model really was remedial education. And there were sometimes, I think we had in our program before I came, 2 courses that were non-credit courses that preceded Composition 1. And then I think it became 1 course that preceded Composition 1. But they got no credit for it. They did have to pass an exam at the end. And it was demoralizing for students because they felt like they were kind of targeted. They were put in these classes. They were tracked in a particular way. And they didn't have perhaps the same incentives to do well because they felt like, I'm not going to get credit for this course. Why should I work really hard it was like to get out and get into composition. And we wanted to get rid of this sense of deficiency and remediation and build a developmental model that basically said students needed to develop their abilities, but they weren't lacking in abilities.
Right.
So we were trying to move from a deficiency model to a developmental model. And the plan at the time was that students would take a pre-exam, a summer placement. They would be placed in an SWW course, but that course would be 3 credits, the same credit as composition, but it would have an enhanced hour with the instructor and an in-class tutor who also worked with the instructor both in class, in this extra hour, and then it was the same tutor for tutoring. So we believe that giving students this extra support in areas that they needed, because students may need different areas, there were different areas of writing that they needed, and we could individualize instruction. At the same time, we could give support to all the students, and the extra credit would count towards graduation, the course would count towards graduation. So that was the plan, and it was integrated instruction. Sometimes, we felt that students would be sent by the teacher to the learning center, to the learning center, and the tutor wouldn't know what the teacher was doing. There wasn't that coordination between teacher and tutor. And this way, the tutor was in the class. The tutor could talk with the students, talk with the instructor, find out from the instructor what the student needed. And that integrated approach would really ensure progress for students. And as we found out from the trial run and then the subsequent years, the program worked very well, and students were passing our common final exams and moving on to the next course at the same rate as regular students. And so this enhanced model worked. And in the past couple of years, I've noticed many more schools are moving towards some form of this kind of hybrid model as opposed to a remedial model.
The SWW program was very successful in terms of retention rates and in terms of GPAs of its students in comparison to their peers who were not in the program. And after 20 years, we were feeling very good about the success. However, at that point, in about 2015-16, we lost our federal TRIO grant that had enabled us to pay for the embedded tutors to be in the classroom. And at that point, we lost what we felt was probably the most essential element to the program, having those embedded tutors.
And then COVID hit. And when we saw the numbers of failed students who'd withdrawn, students who'd needed incompletes, we recognized that something had to be done for our SWW students. Luckily, our chair and our dean agreed, and they gave us permission to try out a pilot program that revolved around an idea that our composition assistant, Joanne Diodisibus, had been advocating for years, a training program for our graduate students in tutoring.
Okay, Joanne, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at SUNY New Paltz, and then describe how you came up with the idea to have trained TAs as tutors?
Sure. So I'm Joanne Diodisibus. I'm the composition program assistant, and I'm also an adjunct instructor, and I'm a former teaching assistant myself. In my position, I help to mentor TAs along with the composition program coordinator. And I don't know, a few years ago, I think we realized that we needed to find an economical way to support our students in the SWW program, the Supplemental Writing Workshop Program, because they needed tutoring. And so tutoring has come from, different funding and places over the years, but it just occurred to me that we have the largest teaching assistant program on campus. We oftentimes have 17 TAs teaching composition courses for us every semester. And some of those TAs might appreciate the experience of working one-on-one with students and maybe not jumping right into the classroom at first. So they could just kind of shadow and see what the course was about, see what the instructors were doing, and have the opportunity to support our students who need the extra writing help.
So we had several goals for the project. First, we knew that we would have to create a homegrown site. It couldn't be staffed by professionals or curated. So we decided on using Hawk Sites as our site. Then we also, second, knew that we needed something that could be easily editable. And third, we knew that we would not be paying for professional materials. We did not have a budget. So in essence, we were creating a site that needed to be sustainable over many semesters and years, and that could be amended and changed and updated every semester and throughout a semester.
In the spring of 2021, Rachel and I applied for a SURE grant. That is a student undergraduate research experience. We had already identified 2 undergraduate students who we thought would be fabulous for this kind of project. Both of these students had worked with me in composition a few years earlier.
The focus of your academics. So tell us again, what is your major?
I'm an adolescent education and English major, so I hope to be an English teacher. I want to work with high schoolers and hopefully bring a new perspective to education in that way. And Lauren, on the other hand,
I am a double major in journalism and digital media production. So one day I hope to possibly be some sort of digital journalist, visual journalist. I think that writing has always been an important part of my academic career, so becoming a writing tutor and adding journalism as one of my majors was always intended to include that in my studies.
So you said bringing together of 2 different perspectives.